Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Jets Life Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony, and today we're going to get right into the finale of the preseason, the what was once called the Snoopy Bowl by former head coach Rex Ryan. The Jets finally wrap up their preseason here today against the Giants, and can't wait for it to be over. One of the most boring parts of the entire offseason process is the preseason. I just don't find myself getting overly excited about things, especially when you have games where starters play one drive, one possession. It was interesting last week. I'll say that the starters did play a little bit longer into the half. The starting defense, that is. The starting offense still only had that one possession, and then after that, there's not much to be excited about. But nonetheless, we have one more left to get through before the games actually start counting, and we hopefully have something to really be excited about. So before any further delay, let's get right into the key storylines of tonight's preseason finale. As we know, stars aren't going to play at all in this game. So key storyline number one, Cade Klubnik's final audition. This is probably the last we'll see him, hopefully, this season. So go out there and show yourself. I want to see this guy throwing, through the first half, possibly even start a drive in the second half. There's no reason that we need to see Bailey Zappi. There's no real reason we need to see Brady Cook. Might as well go out there, give Cade Klubnik as many reps as you possibly can get him. Because, again, this will probably be the last live game action he's going to see, barring any significant injury to Geno Smith. So, again, I want to see a little bit of what I saw the first week of preseason. The troubles are that the offensive line in front of him in that first preseason game was the starting offensive line, and the offensive line in front of him in the second preseason game was the backup offensive line, which has multiple players that, honestly, in my opinion, if there are better options out there, wouldn't be on the team. But nonetheless, Cade, go out there. Again, I go back to what I said last week is I want to see from him, can he elevate those around him somewhat to the extent of what the starters did for him the week prior. He looked really good in the first preseason game, leading the starting offense down the field against the backup Tampa Bay defense. Can he now take a step back and be the better of the secondary unit? That's a major step for him, if that's possible, especially at his young age. So really got nothing to lose, kid. I mean, just go out there and show yourself and see what happens. Take a couple of risks. I'd like to see this offense take a couple shots down the field. I don't feel like we've really seen that at all, really from any quarterbacks really throughout this entire preseason. So it'd be nice to see Klubnik, throw the ball down the field, show off your arm strength, and use your legs a little bit. That's kind of what made him his money, being able to get off platform, get out outside the pocket, and make some plays. That's really what was a little bit of his bread and butter back at Clemson. Let's see a little bit more of that as he starts to get comfortable, because, again, this will be the last that we'll see him in live game reps. So if you want that comfortability of when and if Geno Smith goes down, that you have someone reliable back there, it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of a sample size in the final preseason game to make you feel like he can at least operate to a high extent. Yeah, Zachary, I 100% agree with you. There's no reason why Cade shouldn't play at least 2 quarters, possibly even come out the second half just for a drive or two, just to see how that transition in half. I'd like to see that as well. But you're probably right. He probably just plays the first 2 quarters, hopefully ends the half in a solid note, and off to the regular season. But I agree with you. Minimum should play 2 quarters. I'd like to see a drive or two in the second half personally. Key storyline number 2, battle for the 6th wide receiver spot. I keep going down the line of the 53-man roster, and the math that makes sense to me the most is the Jets keeping 6 wide receivers. The question is, who is the 6th wide receiver and possibly even the 5th wide receiver? My opinion is, obviously, the first 3 are locked down: Garrett, Adonai, Omar Cooper, and even Isaiah Williams. Those 4 are locked down. Then it gets to Tim Patrick, who I think makes the team. And then it's Aaron Smith. And as horrible as he's been, as, depressing as it almost feels to see him on the field, I don't know what Malik McLean is to say that he has earned the spot over Arian Smith. I don't think Arian Smith has done anything either to take over that role. But the key is that this preseason game might be like a situation where if one of these guys goes out there and produces, they might, you might see something here. Do I think Omar Cooper plays? It's been reported that all the stars aren't going to play. I think Cooper finds himself in that role of starters. Like what a lot of teams do nowadays is they bucket starters and like key contributors, like key secondary unit guys as their starting players. I doubt Cooper plays. I think we've seen a lot out of him. He's playing with the starting unit in practices. I don't really see a reason for him to play. And I even throw Isaiah Williams in that mix too. He's not a starter per se, but he's a key contributor to what this offense and what this kick return team needs to be. I just think you reach the point in the preseason where you're mostly healthy. Let's just get through this final preseason game with your back of the roster guys and just call it a day, and let's get right into the real stuff without many other injuries. The sixth or last wide receiver special. Yeah, I agree with you. And Arian Smith does provide some versatility on special teams. Another player like out there that has shown me a little bit of special teams juice is Jamal Pritchett. Again, a player that just hasn't shown enough or anything really. I mean, between the three guys, they have two catches in the whole preseason, and Malik McLean has both of them. So I think you're kind of like cutting hairs here with guys. Like nobody has really shown anything on the back end of the wide receiver position. Again, I think your top five are probably locked, and then it's just pick your poison and stash whoever else on the practice squad, because I doubt any other team out there is going to go out there and put in a waiver claim and activate one of these three guys to their 53-man roster. So it's just a matter of who do you feel like gives you something on game day if you need him. And I think at this point, it's probably Arian Smith, but again, he just has not shown me nearly enough to make me feel like slam dunk, he's the guy. I think they keep a 6 wide receiver. I just don't know who the 6 wide receiver is. Money on it today is probably Arian Smith. This regime drafted him. They had some sort of vision. Whether or not he's been producing their plans in that vision is one side of the story. But again, nobody else has overtaken him for what this team wants to do. So I just think tie goes to the guy you picked. Yeah, and he's probably going to pick, he gets Stiggers. That's obviously a big one that's for him. McCrary Bull is probably another one that sticks on the roster because of his special teams abilities. He's had Pritchett on kick returns a couple times. Is Pritchett somebody he likes better on kick returns? I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Isaiah Williams is obviously a special teamer, but he's also kind of turned into that 4th wide receiver. So I think, again, I don't think that counts as one of Banjo's picks. I think it's just a player that ironically fits into the top 4 wide receivers, but also gives special teams juice. Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, if you ask me to put my money on it today, it's Arian Smith, but I wouldn't put too much money on it myself. I just don't know that anybody has really proven himself. But maybe today is the day that you see, Arian Smith have a big day, or one of these other guys, McLean, Pritchett, have big days, and it's like, okay, now this decision gets a little difficult. We've seen absolutely nothing from Arian Smith, but so-and-so player just had 5 catches for 60 yards, and it's like, do we ignore that? Is it just a fluky thing because he's going against 4th stringers on the other side of the ball too? I don't know, but I just don't think any of these guys has really solidified their roster spot. But I still think the Jets want to keep a 6 wide receiver for that, gunner ability, an extra returner in case of injuries, because we all know Kene Nwangwu, however you pronounce his name, he's one to frequently get injured in the kick return game. So you definitely need somebody else out there who can give you that. Arian Smith has done that at times. Do they feel confident with him? That's obviously the next question needs to be answered. But key storyline number 3, I'm going roster battles here is kind of the storyline here for the most part. And the roster spot I'm paying attention to here is the edge spot. And so obviously you have your main guys. You have Kingsley, you have Bailey, you have Will McDonald, you have Joseph Tsai. Those 4 guys are sticking. The Jets keep a 5th defensive end / edge player. We've seen Nate Lynn have, he just started about a week and a half ago and already had a monster game in that opener against the in his opener, our second game against the Lions, Steelers, coming over from the Lions. Nate Lynn, I don't know how you talk yourself into anybody else. The only thing I can say is just keep doing what you're doing, Nate Lynn, and you're going to be on the roster. I don't. If they decide to keep 5 defensive ends, I think they would because he's shown some pretty good promise. I just can't see a world where they're keeping Tyler Barron or Brady McGregor over what we've already seen in such short sample size out of Nate Lynn. He looks like a freak. I don't know how this guy was just walking the streets. Again, he was doing it against tail end of the roster kind of guys, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But still, Brady McGregor and Tyler Barron are also out there with tail end of the roster guys on the other side of the field, and we don't really see much out of them. So I agree with you, Zach. I think it's Nate Lynn, but the question is, do they want to keep an extra defensive end? I think he makes that decision a little more difficult because you keep a 5th defensive end. Are you also keeping 5 defensive tackles? You got Sweat Phillips, you have Onyemata, Darryl Jackson, and Juwan. Yeah, you're keeping 5 defensive tackles. You also keep 5 defensive ends. And then you have that roster gymnastics stuff because I think a lot of people have us keeping 5 linebackers. I don't personally see it as like the most logical approach to it. I don't see the reason for Mikael Walker and McCrary Bull outside of special teams abilities. But so yeah, you get to that world where you're like, okay, you can't keep 10 defensive linemen, 5 linebackers, because then you can only, you can only do so much on a defense side of the ball. So I think it's probably going to end up being Nate Lynn at the defensive ends. But again, that's kind of the topic of conversation here is what are we looking for in this game? I just want to see Nate Lynn continue to show that progress he's already shown through his first week and a half as a member of the Jets. Needed that. Oof. I tell you what, I like the solo, but it's a lot easier when you got a minute to kind of regurgitate a question, let your co-host kind of talk for a moment, gain your breath a little bit, and then keep going. So bear with me for a moment here as I kind of regroup. But key storyline number 4, offensive line depth. We all feel very confident with who we have as our starting unit, our starting 5. But then when you get behind that, it's a little hairy-carry. But again, most of the league does not have 9 or 10 quality offensive linemen on their roster. It's just not a thing. It's hard not to find 5 quality starters, let alone have solid depth behind that. But there's solid depth, and then there's Max Mitchell and Xavier Newman and what they showed us in that last preseason game. And I think a big reason behind Cade Klubnik's, down week, I just think he was getting his ass kicked, and that's not making an excuse for the kid. I just think, I think we saw what he can do with, a strong offensive line in front of him, skill players, that are probably the best he's ever seen in his entire life. But then when you take a step back and you're going up against, the starting Steelers defense line and your backup offensive line is the ones responsible for protecting you and they're getting their ass beat snap after snap, it's really hard to get a strong evaluation on what he was doing. So from that aspect, I just think I don't know that there's anything that these guys can do. And as Cooper, obviously, he can do something. He had a little bit of he had a really, really good first week, not so great second week. Can he rebound with another good week this week? That's a player who can do something. These other guys, Corafor, Xavier Newman, Max Mitchell, really the last two is what I'm most concerned about. These guys are going to make the roster, and barring any waiver wire pickups, they're part of your first 9 offensive linemen, and I just think it's very concerning at this point. I don't want him to play either. I don't know the reason why this guy's getting running back reps. It makes no sense for a guy who gets injured to be out there in running situations. He's not going to be a running back on this roster. He's a kick returner. What is the point of putting him out there? You have a couple of practice squad guys on your roster. Just put them out there. Let them get their, this is their opportunity, their only opportunity to get really anything out of it. To show people down the road, hey, I played on an NFL roster. Look what I did in preseason games. I don't see a reason for anybody who's expected to have key contributions during the regular season to be involved in this game at all. 100% agree with you, Zach. Kane, just don't even suit him up. I don't see a point. But yeah, I mean, barring any sort of miracle here that these guys kind of turn the corner, which I doubt is going to happen. I think the Jets are going to use that waiver priority, and whatever the best offensive lineman is out there, they're going to go out and get them. They need really depth at center because Xavier Newman is that depth. I know Dylan Parham has some history of playing center. I don't know how confident or we should be in that. But he, in a pinch, he could be moved over to center, I guess. Obviously Tittman, but I don't want him moving. I think he's a stellar right guard. I want him to stay there next to Membu. I want that to be like our right side of the offensive line for many, many years. And yeah, the Jets desperately can use help at offensive tackle depth and center/offensive guard depth. Because I just don't see it on the roster currently. I could be, lying, but I think many of us can agree it's probably not Newman or Max Mitchell. Appreciate the service, but I think if there's areas that they can improve, that's probably area number 1 and area number 2. Key storyline number 5. I think today probably gives you a good glimpse of what the Jets are thinking from a 53-man roster building standpoint. Do they keep 4 tight ends, or do they keep a fullback? And I think obviously there's some quality, some benefits to having a fullback, especially the way Aaron Glenn wants to run his offense. But I think Jelani Woods has shown a lot of promise this offseason through training camp, through OTAs. His name has popped up very, very frequently. Andrew Beck, I just don't really feel like has a role on this team outside of just being the only fullback. So I think the Jets end up going with the 4th tight end and not a fullback. And, maybe they do some roster gymnastics once everything gets rolling. But I just don't know that there's a reason to keep Beck. It's Woods versus Beck. Yeah, and I just think I remember when Rucker came out, there was times where he was lining up in the backfield a little bit to be like that kind of fullback and lead blocker type of thing. Can you get back doing a little bit of that? I know we're trying to, make the most out of him. He's a 3rd tight end and let him get comfortable with that. But I just feel like your 3rd tight end should be able to kind of line up in the backfield and be a lead blocker to some extent. And that kind of helps you in the aspect of needing a fullback. What does a fullback really offer you outside of being able to take a handoff and run for a yard or two? in short yardage situations. What does a fullback really offer you that, a third tight end with the build of Ruckert can't also do? Obviously, Jelani Woods, I think he fits more of the frame of being like a inline blocking tight end. I just don't know that he would offer that kind of versatility, but I know Ruckert to some extent did it already. Like, can we just, kind of eliminate the fullback position to some degree and just put Ruckert back there and just give him an extra role? Like, how much more, we already praised what this tight end unit can be between Mason Taylor, Sadiq, and, Ruckert being your third tight end. There's worse things in the world. But imagine if, like, you kind of mix things up here and now put Ruckert in the backfield, Sadiq can line up outside, Taylor, can do plenty of things from the tight end position as well. It just makes that unit so much more versatile. And good luck being a defense coordinator trying to figure out, like, okay, where are all these tight ends lining up? And, oh, by the way, I got to watch out for all these receivers. They got 2 first-round picks and a first-round potential talent and second-round pick, Adonai Mitchell, lined up all over the place. It makes for a confusing situation here. But I go back to kind of what I was saying. I just don't see a point in Beck. You could probably stash him on the practice squad. If there's a game you desperately want a fullback to be elevated, you can try and figure that out. But again, I just don't see a reason why in 2026 you need to keep a fullback for the sake of keeping a fullback. And then the last storyline here, kind of the fun thing about the final preseason game. The sad truth is a lot of these guys that are out there that are going to be playing today are probably not going to have jobs at all. Come the 31st thing is cut down day. So I mentioned it already, like, when Zach, you brought up the, not wanting to play Kane, like, all these players that are out there, this is probably going to be like their last opportunity of, showing something and, like, hey, I made it to the NFL, whether it be on a 53-man roster or just, playing games in August. This is the moment, and we've had some fun storylines throughout the years. David Clowney out there, like, was a lot of fun. And, there's also some of those storylines where players, show something in preseason and eventually turn into something. Quincy Enunwa was one that I remember, like, hey, this guy looks pretty damn good. He starts kind of rolling a little bit here, showing some promise, eventually kind of works his way into the starting unit, and then the rest is history with him. But more likely than not, a lot of these guys are just not going to have full-time jobs or just, are not going to be on NFL rosters come a couple days from now. So, just for those players, take advantage of this last opportunity you have. This is your last chance to really show anything on film. And, maybe someone shows something. Maybe, Jamal Pritchett, maybe Malik McLean. Maybe one of them does have like that, 5-6 catch game, whatever, for 75 yards. And it's like, yeah, but we really like Arian Smith. And then another team says, oh, you know what? We're short on receivers. We need some special teams help. Let's take this guy and see what happens. I mean, big, Jet that we were huge fans of was Jason Brownlee a couple years back. I remember that offseason between him and Gibson being that 5th or 6th wide receiver. Both ended up making the team. Obviously, it was short-lived for Brownlee, but he ends up finding a little bit of a role in Kansas City a few years later, working with Mahomes. I think he had a touchdown last year. So, some of these storylines are fun, and they do tend to, for some of these players, it does linger for a little bit longer. Danny Woodhead was a big one for us back in the day, and obviously got picked up by New England and ended up being like a key role player for them to some extent. So there are fun storylines that kind of work their way through these final games. And I don't know, I'm down for a good, Cinderella story type of situation on this team. But again, chances are anybody suiting up is probably, or most of the players suiting up probably not going to be around for long. That's all I got regarding the Jets versus Giants game tonight. Watch the game, enjoy yourself, have fun. Just want to take some time to go over what's upcoming here. over the next few weeks. Obviously, now I'm on to a regular schedule now, every Tuesday night with Dom. Well, I don't want to say every Tuesday night. The first Tuesday after the game might be Harry Carey. We might show up late. We might show up on Wednesday. I'll let everyone know exactly the plan once we get closer. But every Tuesday, every Friday afternoon, I will go live like I am today. But obviously, with something more to go through, I will go through like my true storylines for the game, give a game prediction, and go through it that way. And then if you haven't, on Saturdays I go live on the Mafia Sports Report channel with Tommy, Juan, and I don't know who the Dolphins guy is yet. Last I checked, we're kind of finding a Dolphins guy, but I don't know if we've officially found one yet. I would assume we have. Go over to the Mafia Sports Report channel every Saturday during the season, and last year we even dabbled into the postseason for a little bit. It's just an AFC East roundtable. We all talk about things called the AFC Shakedown, and Tommy does a good job getting us all together, and it's always a fun time. So if you're into Jets content, you just want to hear different opinions from people outside of the Jets fandom, obviously people with close interests, obviously a Bills guy, a Dolphins guy, and a Patriots guy all being involved. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way of kicking off your Saturday. We start off at noon on Saturday, so right around the time the college games kick off, we're rolling for a little bit, and some of them go for an hour, some go for 2 hours, especially when we're kind of recapping prior week's games and looking forward to the games ahead. But get over to that channel, hit that like button to his content, subscribe, and feel free to join us tomorrow for what should be a fun little recap of what's happened in the offseason, and to some degree, I look forward to what to expect in the 2026 season. Outside of that, everyone, whether you're listening live or following up and catching up after the fact, please help me out. Like the channel. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow. I will be in Nashville for the Week 1 game, flying in Friday night, and I will be participating in the festivities of Saturday. I think there's some sort of bar crawl thing happening. I'll be at Jake Asman's event Saturday evening at the Barstool on 2nd Ave, and really looking forward to it. I went to a Nashville game a couple of years ago. The fandom there was absolutely outstanding. We did the what you want to call it, the tailgate with Gotham City Crew. They also did a pub crawl as well. That Saturday. I don't think Jake was down there that year. He may have been. I just didn't see him. But that entire event was a lot of fun. Nashville's a beautiful place. If you haven't been, you got to go. It's a lot of fun. If you like music, I'm not a huge country guy, but I tell you what, going down to Nashville kind of got me feeling a little country vibes and having a little bit of fun that way. But head over down to Nashville, and if you are, go over down to Barstool. A lot of Jet fans are going to be there. From my understanding, a lot of RSVPs already for the event, and should be a lot of fun. I'll be sitting in row 114 for the game. Officially got my tickets as well. But again, if you haven't done Nashville, definitely put it on your bucket list. Get down there. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good sports town, good music town. A lot of stuff to do, whether it's with a significant other, just a group of friends. There's plenty to do in that area. Like I said, we went a couple of years ago, had a lot of fun. That's why I'm doing it again. Not just because it's Jet season opener, but just a place we had a lot of fun at, and looking forward to doing it again. Again, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Everyone, appreciate you for joining, and let's go Jets.